Thank you, Mr. Graves, for those very special words. At this time, the president of Southwest Texas State University, Dr. Jerome Supple, will make a special presentation. Jerry?
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, John, for those comments. Your very presence here is a validation of the good works in that collection. On these doors behind me lie seeds and roots and fruits and tools. It may sound like a farm, and I guess in a certain way it is. It's the kind of farm that captures the cultural and literary roots of a region. It stores the fruits of hundreds of writers and photographers and screen artists. It offers the seeds for future writers and the tools to help them. Bill Wittliff says that that's been a plan of his for years, to set up a place to inspire young men and women with an itch to write and not yet the courage. And the need for such a collection was obvious to him. We need to know where we come from, he said. Bill was an early convert to his life's work. After reading J. Frank Dobie's Old-Time Tales of Texas when he was 12, he decided that storytelling was his own future. He gave in to a yearning to books by Southwestern writers in 1963 when he set up the Encino Press in his garage with $300 in poker winnings. He ran the press at nights, I guess when he wasn't playing poker, and on weekends while Sally kept the office and the books. And he began writing professionally himself when he was in his 30s. Thaddeus Rose and Eddie, a 1978 TV movie, was his first script to be produced. Then came The Black Stallion, Honeysuckle Rose, Raggedy Man, Red-Headed Stranger, and Country. In 1986, he began an arduous task of converting Lonesome Dove to the television screen and watched that project become lovingly embraced by the American public in 1989. He's now filming, as you well know, a new series called Ned Blessing, filming near Austin, being produced by Texans. We expect to see that on CBS Spring. Bill is a wonderful photographer, writer, movie producer, director, and book designer. He does a lot of things well. But first of all, he's a Texan and a Southwesterner. He doesn't try to explain his love for his native state. He says, it's my place. Simple as that. He's intent on preserving its heritage in a special place. So in 1986, the Wittliffs approached Southwest Texas with the idea, and together we set up the Southwestern Writers Collection. The collection is doing what Bill hoped it would, inspire future writers as the Dobie book inspired him. Author Stephen Harrigan says, I was working in ignorance when I started out. I didn't know any writers. If I had wandered into a room like this, I would have been enchanted, just to see that there were other people trying the same things that I wanted to do. The Wittliffs have established a trade that belongs to the Southwest, to Texas, and we are proud to say to Southwest Texas. Bill and Sally, we thank you for bringing this magnificent archive and educational tool to Southwest Texas. And to show our appreciation today, we want to present to you the highest honor the President of Southwest Texas can give for outstanding contributions to our mission and our future. Would you please accept from Southwest Texas State University our President's Excellence Award.
Oh.
This is not going to be a speech. I put it in my contract when we started, seriously. But I do want to remark on one thing. Years ago when I was a child, my mother ran the telephone office in Edna, Texas. And there was a man in that town named Tips Westhoff who ran the hardware. And he used to give me old boards and nails and so on and told me stories. One of the stories he told me was of an escaped slave woman who lived in the river bottom, the Navidad river bottoms. And the men around there for years tried to catch her and never could. But they did find her tracks. And for a time, they found the tracks of a small child with her tracks. And then after a while, the small tracks vanished. And I guess I must have been 6 or 7, and I was so hugely and deeply moved by that story that it became then and is a part of me. 6 or 7 years after that, when I think I was 13 or so, an aunt who worked in the book department of Joske's in Houston sent me a copy of J. Frank Dobie's Old Time Tales of Texas. And in that book was a story called The Wild Woman of the Navidad, which was a story that I had first heard as an oral tradition. Well, it just set me afire. I had never realized that books, writing, literature could spring from the very piece of ground that I had lived on or was living on. And I guess whatever participation Sally and I have had in this thing really comes from that moment. So it was kind of Dobie, I think, passing through me to this. I got the itch then. I certainly didn't have the courage to try to write. It wasn't until I was 30, I guess, that I ever got a single good sentence. But the spark came from there. My hope for this thing, and Sally's hope for this thing, is that with everybody else's help, that spark keeps passing on down. And I want to thank everybody here at Southwest Texas and all of you who've given of your time, your artifacts, your manuscripts, your books, and given of your heart. Thank you most kindly.
Some Hollywood producers used to tell Bill it's ridiculous to think you can live in a place like Texas movies. Bill showed them you can not only write movies in Texas, but you can film them here. Our next speaker's been spreading the same word. She recently returned from California, where she told the movie people what Texas has to offer. She's spreading all kinds of good words about Texas, in the state as well as out of it. She tells Texans that we can overcome the current fiscal crisis by using our resources wisely. She tells us that our hard work, our common sense, and our energy can restore the state's vitality. She tells us how all of our citizens can contribute to making Texas great again, the state that leads the way in addressing our country's future. She's always believed in the participation of all citizens. She's been active in the community all of her professional life, first as a public school teacher, then as an elected official. She ran campaigns for others before running her own. As county commissioner and state treasurer, then launched her campaign for the top seat in state government. From her childhood in Waco to the governor's mansion, Ann Richards, like Bill Wittliff, has been influenced by Texas stories, the legends, the heritage, the characters that make Texas bigger than life. That background helps her belief in a bright future for the state of Texas, and she's working to ensure all of us a future that lives up to those stories. It's quite fitting, then, that such a committed public official helps us dedicate our Southwestern Writers Collection. Would you please join me in welcoming Governor Ann Richards?